first service that I was down here worshiping, and it just felt like the words cusp of a wave was just in my heart, and it just felt like God was saying that God is really going to be, when a surfer is just, that moment where it crests, or if you've done a boogie board, or if you body surf or anything like that, the wave is just about to crest. And I don't know what, but I just really believe that in so many people's lives, and every person that's live that's hearing me right now, I believe God's going to be bringing something really neat into people's lives, into his body. But also I believe in this church. I believe God is doing something. He's going to do something that we've seen that happen, where there's just this surge and something amazing happens. And I just feel like we're on the verge of that, and I'm excited about something that God's going to do there. In 1972, there was a study that was done by a person by the name of Walter Mischer at Stanford University. He was a psychiatrist there. And we know it now as the Marshmallow test. It's a test about deferred gratification. And what happens is this, that it was originally done with a group of students at Bing Elementary School. There were ages between 4 and 6 years old. There were all those people there. And what they did is they brought kids in one at a time, and they would put a marshmallow in front of them and say, you can have the one marshmallow now, or if when I leave and I come back, you have not eaten the marshmallow, I will give you 2 marshmallows. Well, as soon as they left, a lot of the students just immediately snarfed down the one marshmallow. But there were a lot of other people that they waited, and they tried to do so many things to get their mind off the marshmallow. Some of the times they closed their eyes. Sometimes they tried to sleep. Some people talked to themselves. Some people sang. Some people went and played, but they tried to do anything to get their mind off that. But when they came back in, they were rewarded with 2 marshmallows. And here's what the study said. It said the objective of the experiment was to see if the ability to defer gratification correlated to long-term academic achievement. The academic record of the 216 children who participated was tracked all the way through high school graduation. What they discovered was that there was a huge difference in achievement between the 1 marshmallow now and the 2 marshmallow later kids. The kids who exhibited the ability to delay gratification longer, they were more academically accomplished. Listen to this. They scored on average 210 points higher on their SAT. And the marshmallows test was twice as powerful of an indicator of academic success that the IQ test was. They were also more socially competent. There was a marked difference in self-reliance and self-confidence. They also took initiative and handled pressure more effectively. And listen to this, in a follow-up study that when these children were in their 40s, so talking years later, researchers found that the 2 marshmallow later children had higher incomes, stronger marriages, and happier careers. And they finally said this, the net result of those studies is this: goal-directed, self-imposed delay of gratification is a powerful predictor of future success in any endeavor. And something we're going to do today, we've been in a study on all in, just giving God our all. Not just part way, just wading into things, but diving into everything we have for God. And what we're going to take a look at today is a 1 marshmallow guy, okay, and right now, and a 2 marshmallow later lady. And here's the story. If you have your Bible or anything else there, your phone, anything that has the device on it, Mark chapter 14, and it says this: while he, talking about Jesus, was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of a man known as Simon the leper. Now think about that. How'd you like your nickname to be the leper? You know? I mean, that doesn't get much worse than that kind of a nickname. He was not a leper at this time, or nobody else would be in his house, right? But there was a time that he was a leper, and what I really believe, and we'll see later, is that Jesus healed Simon. And now, out of gratitude, that he was going to have a big celebration and honor Jesus into his house. But watch what happened. While Jesus was there, something wild happened. A woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume made of pure nard. Now, to say this was an expensive perfume was like the understatement of the century, because first of all, it was made out of alabaster, the jar was, which is a precious, almost semi-transparent stone, but then also pure nard was in there. Nard was an herb that was harvested in the Himalayas, so you can imagine how rare, especially in those days, that it was. Ladies, I want you to think, what's the most expensive price you ever paid for some perfume? Or what was the most expensive guys that you ever paid for a lady? Or the most expensive cologne you ever paid? This was worth, we're going to find out in a little while, it was worth an entire year's wages, if you can imagine that. And watch what she did with it. I mean, it's worth a year's wages, and it says she broke the jar and poured the perfume on Jesus' head as he was reclining at the table. This lady poured every ounce of it on Jesus. And watch what the disciples' reaction was. Said this: when the disciples saw this, they were indignant. I mean, they got hacked off at this lady doing a wonderful thing. Why this waste? They asked. This perfume could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor. And they rebuked her harshly. The disciples are getting mad at her for doing this wonderful thing, but watch who rebukes them. But leave her alone, said Jesus. I don't think he said that in a great tone. I think he got really mad at them for getting mad at her. Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. What the disciples called a waste, he called a beautiful thing. What they got offended at, he defended. In fact, he applauded her. He didn't just applaud her. He really, really, really applauded her, what she did. Listen to this. He said, I tell you the truth. Wherever this gospel is preached, throughout the world, what she has done will be told in memory of her. And think about how many, the vast majority of all the people that have ever been kings and queens and leaders and everything like that, we've forgotten most of them in world history. I mean, most of them have just gone by the wayside, but we are still remembering this lady 2,000 years later. In fact, right now, me talking about this is a fulfillment of that prophecy 2,000 years ago that Jesus did. And I love that he said this, he said, she has done a beautiful thing to me. In other words, he's saying this, that I didn't do this for you guys. I didn't do this for applause from all this. She did this for an audience of one. She did this for Jesus and Jesus alone. And I don't know about you, but when I'm here worshiping, I'm not doing it for you guys. I'm doing it for one person. I'm doing it for Jesus. When I give, I give to the church, but I give to Jesus through the church there. And watch, everybody's their reaction was she's done this is a crazy thing. I mean, what she does doesn't make sense. And I wonder if we would have seen that. I wonder if we'd have watched her do this, if we'd have come up with the same reaction. I wonder if we'd have gone, man, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever. This could have been done, used for some really, really incredible things, and you just poured it out like that. We might have had the same reaction. I can relate to the disciples here. I might have had the same reaction as her, maybe, or them. Maybe you have too. But here's the thing too, is it doesn't make sense. Whenever we go all in with Jesus, it's never, ever, ever going to make sense. I mean, our mind's never going to understand it. We're always going to have this fight between our heart and our mind. Our heart is going to go, yes, I want to go all in with Jesus. And our mind's going to go, do you know what that's going to do? Do you know what this? Do you know what this? What if? And we're going to have this civil war inside of us every time our heart wants to go in all the way for Jesus. Now, if we just knew who this lady was, if we just knew who she was, maybe we'd get a better understanding of why she did what she did. Well, the good news is John opens up, he puts us behind the curtain. He shows us not only who this lady is, he shows who the disciple is that gave her such a hard time, that was the ringleader for giving them her such a hard time. And he tells why, the motive for why he did that. And let's start with the lady. First, look at who the lady was who poured the perfume. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus arrived at Bethany, where Lazarus lived, whom Jesus had risen from the dead. Here a dinner was given in Jesus' honor. This is what we're reading about. Martha served while Lazarus was among those reclining at the table with him. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine just eating with a guy that had been dead a couple days ago? And would that not be wild? This guy was dead, and now he's alive, and you're looking at him there. And it says, then Mary. Okay. Then Mary took about a pint of pure nard, an expensive perfume. She poured it on Jesus' feet and washed his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the fragrance of her perfume. First of all, think about that. Can you imagine how that smelled, how good that smelled in that house? Imagine that you were there. When you read the Bible, when you listen to it, don't just listen with your ears, but put yourself in that position. I mean, imagine what that smelled like when the whole room is just filled with this incredible, incredible smell. But listen to this. All of a sudden you're going, okay, it's Mary. Okay, I know who Mary is. Mary was Lazarus' sister. Lazarus was her brother. Okay, now I understand what's going on here because Mary was the one that came running to Jesus and said, Jesus, if you'd have been here, my brother wouldn't have died. And she's the one who started to cry and made Jesus cry when he watched her cry. And she was the one that took Jesus to the tomb where her brother had been dead for 4 days. And she sat there and she watched Jesus, or heard Jesus say, Lazarus, come out. And she watched as Jesus raised her brother from the dead. Can you imagine? No wonder she was so grateful. No wonder she poured out. No wonder she went all in for Jesus, because she'd watched Jesus do some amazing thing for her brother. And so now let's look at the disciple who raised the stink, because we're told about that in John chapter 12 too. But one of the disciples, here we go, Judas Iscariot, who was later to betray him, objected. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor? It was worth a year's wages. Now listen to his motive. He did not say this because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. And as keeper of the money bag, he used to help himself to what was put in. I mean, Judas's performance here could have been Oscar-worthy, right? I mean, think of it. He's going on like he really, really, really cares about the poor. He doesn't give a flying flip about the poor. He cares only about lining his own pockets. And he said he was caring about being a pawn star, right? That he wanted this to be sold so he could get so much of the money and put it in his own pocket. And you know, you think about it, Judas always cared more for money than he did for ministry. We see this the whole time. Money was over ministry for him. What is it for us? If we were to take an honest look, I've been looking at my heart in this and going, which really, God, what is more important to me? Money or ministry in this world? And the other thing that we see here too is the Bible calls Judas a thief, okay? A thief. You know why? Because he was. It's exactly when you take money that doesn't belong to you, that's in the offering plate for Jesus, that's there, that's thieving, right? I remember one time several years ago, we watched some people actually, the offering plate went by when we used to do that, and we saw some people take money out and put in, and everybody's going, wow, that's pretty gutsy to do that. But really, if we're honest, is there any difference between taking money out that was put in or not putting money in that was supposed to be put in? That's kind of wild, huh? And it says this, apparently not to God, because in Malachi 3 it says this, will a person rob God? This is God asking that question and asking it to us. Yet you rob me. But you ask, how do we rob you? You rob me because of the tithes and offerings due to me. You are under a curse, for your whole nation has been cheating me. Your whole nation. Bring all the tithes into the storehouse so there will be room enough in my temple. Now think about this. Who initiated tithing? It wasn't a church. It wasn't a pastor. It was God, who needs nothing. He's got everything. He needs nothing. So why in the world would the God who has everything ask us to give a 10% back to him? God, first of all, he tells us in Deuteronomy 14, one of the purposes. He says, the purpose of tithing is to teach you to always put God first in your life. Every time we have an opportunity to, every time we ever get paid, what we have an opportunity to do is go, God, the first thing I want to do with this is I want to make sure that you are paid, that I honor you with my paycheck, that I honor you. It represents my time, it represents my energy, it represents who I am, and the first thing I want to do with it is give that back to you, is honor you with it. So now we see why sometimes it can be a little more than just giving an offering to a plate. Another thing is first fruits are mentioned 29 times in the Bible. Listen to one of these. First fruits is in those days you gave the best of your first. And listen to this. Bring the best of your first fruits to the house of the Lord your God. First, I want to point out the word bring. Okay? Bring. Why does it not say give? Why does it say bring instead of give here? Because you give something that belongs to you. You bring something that belongs to somebody else, and that's exactly what we're doing here. It says bring in the Malachi version, it says bring in all those things of the first fruits. And here's what the Bible says. The tithe of everything, listen to who it belongs to the Lord. And because it does, it is holy to the Lord. And what's the difference between a tithe and an offering? A tithe is the first 10% of what God asks us to bring to Him. That's what we bring back to Him. An offering is whatever we want to do with the rest of the money. If we feel all of a sudden, we feel like we're supposed to give to somebody, or give to a good cause, give to something else, that's awesome. Because, Sylvie and I have 10% taken out immediately from automatically withdrawn from my account. Sylvia will write a check and she'll put her tithe into the offering plate. But then we give to a bunch of other things. That's our tithe, but our offerings we could support a compassion child, we give to missionaries, we give to ministries, we give to great things like like elder orphan care and all different things that as things come up in the church and outside of the church. That's the offering for us. And so it says this too. It says, bring the best of the first fruits. Give your best. Now, Bobby, if you could come out here 1 second. I told Bobby I was going to give him something today. All right, Bobby. Here it is. I know this is his favorite drink, okay? This is a what is it, Green Goddess? What is the thing? Green Machine from Naked. So you could say we got naked this morning in church and stuff. But so here I want to, I know this is your favorite drink, so I want to give that to you.
Okay. Thank you. It looks like maybe a little leaked out.
Why? To be honest, I drank a little.
Oh. Okay. A little?
To be honest again, I drank a whole lot, but there's still plenty of backwash there that you think flavored in there that you'll enjoy.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah, it's a little chunky in the bottom too. I
needed somewhere to put my gum today. I was going to preach.
I
think so.
Okay.
But I just want to show you how much I care for you.
Thanks.
Well, here, okay. I'll give you something else. This is a brand new bottle, never been opened. I want you to have the first.
Ooh, okay. Brought the microphone in the process.
Now, how do you feel?
Okay, now I feel truly grateful.
All right, in honor. Give him a thanks. I don't think I have to say what that was showing, do we? Sometimes we give God the leftovers. Sometimes we give God the backwash instead of giving Him the best and the first. And it says, give God the best, give God the first. Again, the purpose of tithing is to always teach you to always put God first in your life. But there's two people, Cain and Abel, that you maybe read about in the Bible, that all the way in Genesis chapter 4, so go all the way back to the very start, and maybe some of you know that Cain killed his brother Abel. But now we're going to see why he got jealous about his brother and killed him in the first place. But look what started the whole thing. When it was time for the harvest, Cain presented, don't miss this word, some of his crops as a gift to God. Abel also brought a gift, the best of the firstborn lambs from his flock. And listen to that. Cain gave some of his leftovers. Abel gave the best of his first. And this may not seem like a big difference to you, but look how it was to God. The Lord accepted Abel and his gift, but did not accept Cain and his gift. So it really makes a difference, the first, and how we give and what we do there. And it also says, take it to the house. It says, in football, if you score a touchdown, you take it to the house, right? God says exactly where we're supposed to give our first fruits. He's very specific. Bring the best of the first fruits to the house of the Lord your God. In the Malachi, he was just as specific, and he said, you bring the tithe to the temple. What's the modern day equivalent of the temple? The local church as well. So he tells us exactly where to bring the tithe, and there's some people that would say this. There's some people that say, I give 10%, but I give it all over the place and everything. That sounds generous and that sounds great, but it's not where God, who owns it, where it's holy, tells us to give that. And it would be like this. We can't be generous until we are first obedient. And the obedience is this. If you imagine you went to a restaurant and you went in there to the restaurant and you gave the waitress an incredibly big tip, but you walked out intentionally without paying, would you be generous or would you be a thief? We can't be generous until we're obedient first. And speaking of waitresses, isn't it weird that we will give a minimum of 15, 18, 20% to a waitress who serves us for only 30 minutes to an hour without even hesitation, and sometimes some same people, we refuse to give God 10%, the one who gave us every single thing that we own. Something else is this. God gives us another reason why he tells us to tithe. He said, bring the tithe into the storehouse, don't miss this, so there will be room enough in my house. One of the purposes of tithing, not only to teach us how to give and to put him first, but also to take care of the needs of the ministry of his temple, of his church. Now imagine this. If you imagine a super king comes up to you and says, I want you to do something for me. I'm going to give you $10,000 a month. And here's what I want you to do. I want to make sure that my bride is taken care of. I'm going to be going on a trip, and I want you to make sure that you take care of my bride. So the first 10%, the first $1,000 goes to her. You can do whatever else you want with the other $9,000. Now, first of all, is the king being generous, or is he being stingy? I mean, obviously, he's being incredibly generous, right? He's not asking you to give 10% of your money. He's saying, I will give you, you can keep 90% of my money. But then imagine if you went back there 6 months, a year, 2 years later, and he came back and said, did you do what I said with that 10%? He said, well, you know what? Some bills came up and everything, and there was a sweet 54-inch TV, and Carlos needed the money, and Susie needed some of that money, so not really, no. Now, how would that person feel? How would the king feel? Would they go, well, as long as you gave it to somewhere, that's what matters? Or would the king say, that's not what I told you to do with it. I was specific. Where, how much, and where? And let me ask you this question. What time and again is the church called in the Bible? The bride of Christ. That's why God takes this seriously. That's why God, and you know what's funny? I get told to please speak on this more than almost any other subject. Even between the services, several people. You know why? Because God, they're saying, just tell them, because it blesses me. It blesses people. It blesses people. You wouldn't believe how God has blessed me as I've done this. Every time I even increase a tithe, God blesses more. You can't outgive him. And he says, now imagine this. Imagine you were the king. And you gave to 3 different people. You gave the same amount to all 3 people, saying, this is what I want you to do. I want you to take 10% of all that I give you. You can do whatever you want with the rest, but the 10% I want you to give to my bride. And the first person did what I was talking about over here. The other person, well, how would you feel about them? First of all, what would the words be that you would give to those people? Maybe unfaithful, untrustworthy, whatever it is. But imagine you gave to the next person. They did the 10%, exactly the 10%. Imagine what you would do there. You'd go, man, they show they are very faithful. They're very. You can count on them. You can do that. You can count on that person. But how about there was a third person that said not only gave the 10%, but was always looking what else they could do for the bride. Maybe mowing the lawn, or just taking care of them, or just, if they saw they needed food or anything like that. Man, you would know that person cares for your bride like you care for your bride. That person's heart is with you in the same place your heart is. And think about this. Our life is going to be represented, everybody in here and everybody that's watching online, by one of those 3 stories, by one of those 3 people in that. Which one are we at this time? Another thing is, so he says, put him first. That's why. Take care of his bride, the church. And the third is what I was just talking about, so he can bless us. When we tithe, it's us priming the pump so that God can do stuff for us, then pour it back to us. It's the seed that is planted, the seed that multiplies, not the seed that is put in the barn. And it says this, here's this promise. If you do, says the Lord of heaven's armies, I will open up windows of heaven for you. I will pour out a blessing so great that you won't have enough room to take it in. Try it. Put me to the test. The only time God tells us to put him to the test. Your crops will be abundant, for I will guard them from insects and disease. Your grapes will not fall from the vine before they are ripe, says the Lord of heaven's armies. Then all nations will call you blessed, for your land will be such a delight, says the Lord of heaven's armies. Now, there was a guy that I preached on giving several years ago, and a man came up to me, a young man, and he said, man, I've been ripping God off my whole life. And he said, and he handed me some money and said, for me to put in the plate, which is what I did. And I was talking to him. I said, how long have you been a Christian? He said, I'm not a Christian. He said, I don't even know what makes a Christian. So I got to lead him to faith. in Jesus Christ. And then I found out, like a couple of weeks later, we found out he was living in his car. So we took up a love offering for him, and, well, I'll let him tell the story.
So it started when I first went to church. It was my first time in there, and at the end of the service, something inside of me said, go talk to the pastor. So I went up to Lowell. I said, can I talk to you in private? And I said, I don't know why, but I have this feeling to give you this money. It was $200 from an income tax check I got. And that was my first time tithing and really giving to God. That day, I received Christ, and after that, I was back at church one time, and it was time to tithe, and the plate was coming around. And I was like, all right, I'll just throw $5 in. And then there was a voice in my head that said, is that all I'm worth? I was like, oh, okay. So I gave whatever else I had in my pocket. And that kind of led up to, I think, a start of other things in my life, where I was living in my car at one point, and I was just praying and asking God, for guidance and help. And then one day I was laying back, it was nighttime, and I heard him say, this is your last night in the car. The next day, my family said, oh, we got something for you, come over. So I came over to the house. It was a bag of money of $1,500 and a place to stay. And I don't know if it was just being obedient from the first few times or what, but it really changed my life. It really helped me. It's about the obedience, about helping. It's about giving back. I know sometimes it's like, why do I gotta give this and that? But, you do get blessed. It might not be the next day or the next week, but you will be blessed for doing it. It does help the church. It does help other people from the church. And it's just been a blessing. Now me, my wife, she tithes automatically. Even if I'm like, I don't think so. She's like, nope, we have to. And every time we've been short, we've had a blessing. Every time we needed something to come through, it's come through. I'm not saying it's all just from tithing. That's just a little piece of being obedient. But it's all helped us in our life, and kind of gives us guidance.
Amen. It's so incredible to me. I mean, I thought that was amazing that he tithed before he ever became a Christian. And he would send me stuff. He'd send stuff in the mail. He lived in New York for a little while, and he'd send, we'd get something from $6, $8. That was always a faithful tithe, no matter what he made. That week he would always give. Still a great friend, and he talks about God's blessings. Let's go back to the marshmallow test 1 second. Judas was definitely, if he had taken that test, was a one marshmallow now guy, right? I mean, absolutely, he was all that about now at the expense of future blessing. Mary was a all in now, knowing that future blessing was going to come, and I'm sure that it did with her. But here's the thing that I want to say. It's okay to be blessed by God. I mean, God has given us every blessing. Every good and perfect gift comes from above, and God has blessed us. But here's the thing that we have to understand is we can do one of two things with that we can either do things for now, for the moment, and every investment we ever make right now, everything we ever spend right now, we have to know that it's only going to be with us 70, 80, 90, 100 years, whatever it is. But every time we invest in the kingdom of God, God says that that's going to be eternal rewards that we're going to have. In fact, Jesus puts it like this. He said, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for your treasures in heaven where moths and rust do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. And don't miss this, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. We know where Mary's treasure was, right? I mean, she was somebody that what an expression. We saw that Mary's all-in expression showed so much. It showed about her generous heart and her grateful heart. What did it show about Judas? His stingy heart and his ungrateful heart, right? Even his thieving heart. And her action didn't make sense, right? Her action didn't make a lot of sense. But here's what God's told us to do. It is what we've just looked at. That we do it because it puts God first. It's our way of putting God first. It's also how God takes care of his bride. It's also so we prime the pump so that God can bless us. But I love this other reason why we give. It's Mary's reason. It's because we've just been blessed by so many things that God has given us so much. What else can we do? Let me ask you this question. Let's put it where you and I live. Has Jesus ever done anything for you? I'll tell you something that doesn't make sense to me at all. How the God of the universe would leave heaven and come down in human flesh and would die on a cross for you and me and would adopt us into his family and give us all these amazing blessings even when we were his enemy and prepare a place for us in heaven. That doesn't make a lick of sense. And I'll tell you what else may not make a lick of sense either is when we understand that when we do that and we're not willing to go all in for God in every way in our life, including our resources. And so maybe it's not a crazy thing to go all in like Mary did. Maybe it's a crazy thing not to.